Hello and good evening, everyone. Yay! We are able to work through our display format here. And I'm so excited that we have our powerhouse tonight as we work to complete our live host here. Elyse hosts live during Women's History Month. So, as we go through, we've had some phenomenal individuals that have come on this month. And by far, one of the key focuses, of course, has always been education. And so I reached out to someone that we respect with very high regard, that has been around for years, and invited Miss Sharon Draper to come on, and couldn't be more excited than to have her with us this evening. So we've got a blended format tonight. We're using, a tool messenger along with our streaming platform. And to be able to get her on, we're just really excited that she could be with us tonight. So, without any delay, we want to take an opportunity and allow Miss Draper to go ahead and introduce herself. Miss Draper, welcome. Thank you for being with us. Please take a moment. Go ahead and introduce yourself to those of us that are watching.
Well, I'm delighted to be here this evening. It's been a long time. I think I first met Elyse when she was maybe a ninth grader at Walnut Hills,
Yes.
and probably also as a 10th grader and a senior, because if you survived the Draper paper, then you were allowed to go into the world. Uh, but it's amazing and kind of makes my heart feel good when I see all my little puppies that I sent out into the world have grown up to be fine, fine, wonderful individuals, contributing to the society, contributing to the city, contributing to the world, and doing great things. I hear from former students all the time, and at least you have permission to give them my email, and if they want to shout out and say hello, I'm here. So,
Very good. Very good. Well, I will definitely make sure that I include that in for those that are viewing with us tonight. We thank you all for your patience. One of the things that we just love is that technology does allow us the opportunity that even given a pandemic, we can come together. Share, exchange, educate, connect right through the airwaves using technology. And sometimes it does create hiccups or delays. So thank you for being patient with us as we were able to get Miss Draper here together with us. So this month, Miss Draper, Women's History Month, you have made astounding history right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. A lot of us have had you as an educator through Cincinnati Public Schools at Walnut Hills High School. You have phenomenally established, blazed a trail, created a platform that we all know as the Draper paper. And if anyone was ever in class, they know that that was no joke. As a matter of fact, I remember that was the first time I ever stayed up all night long trying to make sure it was right. I'll never forget that. It was definitely historical. I wanted it right because I mean, you really spoke into our lives with that assignment. And not only did we have the assignment, but we got a t-shirt, the whole shebang, so definitely something historical. So, if you will, for those that are tuning in, take a moment and share with us, your inspiration, how you got involved and what you were doing. I may know, I may not know, but for those that are viewing, excuse me, what was your inspiration behind the whole bringing forth the Draper paper and your approach to helping those learn and become educated in your classroom?
um, the Draper paper started simply because my name rhymed with paper. And I never told any of you, but the whole purpose of the thing was to keep seniors busy fourth quarter of senior year. They had absolutely nothing on their mind except for prom, graduation, what they were going to wear, what they were going to do, where they were going to go, and they had zero focus on education fourth quarter. So I told them that in order to graduate from high school, you had to complete senior English, which is true. And in order to complete my senior English class, they had to write the Draper paper, which was really just a term paper, which the skills for which you would need when you went to college. But because it was fourth quarter and because you were ready to party and not study, it was way more significant than it probably really was. If I had given it first quarter, you wouldn't have thought anything of it. But because it was fourth quarter, you were terrified, and rightly so. So I still hear from students who said, "Oh, I remember the Draper paper." But I got you ready. I got you through college, and you're welcome.
Absolutely, absolutely. I tell you one thing, definitely a good foundational stage for many of us. Something that we would never ever forget. Definitely, just noteworthy in terms of, hey, what was the first major project that you had in terms of pulling something as lengthy together? Fast forwarding now, many of us are either currently writing books, developing books, but that brings me to something that you've done. When I look at your website, SharonDraper.com, for those of you that are curious about it, it's scrolling along the bottom of our screen. At SharonDraper.com, we can go out and see you have almost like 30 books, and maybe I've miscounted. How many books do you actually have you actually brought forth, Miss Draper?
I think about 35. Um,
35
yeah, my
books.
website is in process of being redone and will be new. I don't know. I think next week it's going live. But anyway, yeah, I've written probably about 30 books. I started off writing. I the first thing I wrote was a short story that I submitted to Ebony magazine. They used to have that contest, and I won the contest. Um, and back in the day, that was a lot of money. That was $5,000.
Wow.
Still a lot of money. And I wrote that story. I won that money, and I was like, wow, I'm a teacher and a writer. I mean, I was a teacher of writing, so I knew how to write. I just had never really applied it. So I started working on my first novel, and I sent it into 25 publishing companies over the course of, I don't know, several months. I got 24 rejections in a row and one yes. And that was Simon and Schuster, and they published Tears of the Tiger, and it was a roaring success. Some people were surprised, but I wasn't, because I've been teaching writing for years, so I knew what was a good book, and I knew what ninth graders would read. So the book was a success, and they were very thankful and very blessed that that happened. So they asked me to write another one and another one and another one. And I have a deadline for another one due, I think, tomorrow. So
Wow.
I'm going to be pulling an all-nighter.
Amazing. So I guess we all can tell 35 books and another one pulling an all-nighter. The more you've done, is it safe to say that easier it becomes, or has it become harder when you're writing these books?
Oh, it's never easy, because if you do it right, it's difficult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So each one probably brings about something different. So many of us who've had you, our children have read your books. We've read them. Our kids have read them.
Yeah, go ahead and say it. Grandkids too. I once spoke at a school, and a little girl raised her hand and she said, "You taught my grandma." I said, "Sit down, child. I didn't talk to my grandma." She was
Wow.
6, but still, gee.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh wow, I tell you. So here it is. You're hitting multiple generations. I can't think of any other teacher that I know here in Cincinnati that's done that. When I think of Women's History Month, these are great examples of what it's like to come in, touch many lives, and not just maybe 10 years of teaching, but generations after generations. And you've done that, Miss Draper, and you're still doing it. So tell me this, what is your why? Why are you doing this? Why have you done it? Because you've become so good at doing it.
I don't know. I've been blessed, and um, it's a challenge for me, but it isn't difficult. Now, math is difficult for me. It's hard. I can't do math. I don't like math. But writing is a gift. You know, we all have our gifts. Some of us are gifted with math. That's why I have somebody to help me do my taxes. Those are math people. But my gift is with writing. It's just a gift. We take our gifts and we fly with them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, knowing that, then you've got a book coming out, another one, literally right now. For those that are aspiring to write books and maybe they're struggling with their first or second, is there, I mean, do you have like a quick start? Any suggestions, lessons learned? What advice do you give someone, and not necessarily the same target, but just completing it? What advice, based on your experience, what do you give them?
Well, I think it's the same thing I would give my students. What is your purpose for writing this? Who is your audience? Is your audience 5-year-olds? Then you want to write a picture book, and you want to write a book that 5-year-olds can relate to. You want to write for third graders. That's different than writing for sixth graders, which is different than writing for ninth graders. So you have to determine your audience, and then determine what you want your message to be, but never be preachy. I don't believe in writing books that say, well, this is to teach you a lesson. That's not my purpose. You can go to Sunday school for that. A book is a story that talks about a character that has activities and adventures, and you can take from it what you choose. I try to write books that make people think, that make people feel they learn something, but I'm not trying to teach them a lesson. And everybody should get something different from a book that they read.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so, when they read the books, we definitely, especially with yours, we get something different. I remember when my daughter was at Sycamore and you came in, you were speaking, and what an excellent job you did. I mean, just in terms of navigating that age group, because that age group can be extremely tricky. You have your books. It was so nice seeing you there. So, talk to us about you've got the books. What about the speaking platform? When it comes to actually speaking and sharing, it didn't seem like you had to prepare for that. It just came so natural. What do you say about the speaking side of things?
Well, my family is always trying to get me quiet. So, um, like I said, we have gifts, okay? And speaking in front of crowds, which I dearly missed because of the pandemic, but speaking in front of groups of students, groups of teachers, groups of educators, any kind of group, um, gives me energy. And I love being walking on stage with a microphone. I love putting on my pretty white suit. Used to have a closet full of lovely white suits, and they would say, "Here she comes, and what white suit is she going to wear this week?" And it used to be glorious, and then the pandemic kind of slowed all of that down. But hopefully by next year, we'll be able to be out, and I'll be able to go to schools and visit at schools and colleges and universities like I used to. But this has been a year of reflection for all of us, so it was good sometimes to sit your butt down and be still.
Well, I'll tell you, it definitely has been a year of reflection for me personally. I looked at it as Miss Draper, a year that the way I describe it is it's almost like God stepped back to move his hand of protection, to allow us to see his purpose and recognize everything that he does to provide, to keep us safe. I think that we got exposure to getting wrapped up in our own worlds to where we had to be confined, per se, to our homes with those that we say that we love. And we had to really reckon with, hey, this is a reality. This is a life or death manner. And so that put us in an environment where we had to really, really look at some things ongoing in our life. How did you deal? How did you deal with the pandemic?
I did like everybody else. You know, I think all of us turned to introspection because there was nothing else to do. We watched way too much television. Um, I saw a meme once that said, "You have come to the end of Netflix," which many of us did. Um, I read a lot of books. I have, I must own 50 million books. So, I read some of the books that I said I was going to and had never gotten around to, and I had no excuse. So I did a lot of reading. I did some writing. Um, some personal kind of journaling kind of thing, and I wrote a little bit of fiction. But I think each of us found a way to be with ourselves, learn from ourselves, um, learn from our families and those people that we were locked up with, and learn to move on and be better as we come out of this on the other end. I hope that we have all learned something and gained something from this.
I'll tell you one thing I definitely have. I learned that my relationship with God is real, that it wasn't a building, because guess what? The church building was closed, and it was about
Yes.
the people and being in fellowship. And, just as time went on, I mean, just the surprise of everything going on, schools being impacted, whether to stay in the building, to come home, my daughter, being in college, having to come home. Then when they did transition back to campus, what was taught, was it caught, that kind of thought, like ensuring that the child was safe. So we had a lot to really kind of think through. And just as time went on, even down to Miss Draper, the weather. I mean, I spent 20 years corporately, building my career down in Texas, and Texas had never had a blackout with the utilities, but because of the extreme weather, it just seemed like it was a lot going on. And I'm like, God, I just drew closer to God. And then I really got into this space of surrender. Okay. Meaning for me, not necessarily having to have everything planned, but allowing things to happen and going with the flow in certain areas. And that increased my patience. Okay. And so now, when I look at Women's History Month, people like you, certainly you've gone down that path as well. So I guess what I'm leading up to is that this book that you have coming out, the books, we've talked about it. What is next after the book? I know what I think is next for you, but ideally, what's next after this book for Miss Draper?
Probably another book. Um, I mean, I seriously, I have another one already uh, sitting in this messy pile next to me. Uh, that I start with notes and pieces of paper, and it's a ragged mess before it comes together. I'm very thankful for computers that keeps us all organized, but I've got a couple more stories in there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So let me ask you this. Do you get out on social media? Do you look at some of the videos and activity on social media, or do you really just do you engulf yourself in your books mostly?
No, I spend way too much time on Facebook, just like everybody else.
So look, it hits us all. That's good to know because sometimes I wonder, like it used to be, oh, people share their whole story on Facebook, or whatever the social media platform is, but it actually has become a go-to given the pandemic. But I believe that we're coming out of it. Um, Let me ask you this question as we're going into April being National Minority Health Month. Have you been able to get your vaccines? Have you chosen to be vaccinated? What's your take on the vaccines?
Yeah, I asked my doctor about it before vaccines had even been invented, before they even said, "Hey, we have something." I talked to my doctor on like day one of the pandemic, and I said, if they get a vaccine, will you get it?" He said, "I'll be first in line." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I don't trust politicians, but I do trust science." And the vaccines were created by scientists, by doctors, by people who uh, knew what they were doing medically and physically for my body. So I listened to science, and yes, I was fortunate enough to get both vaccinations, and so I'm thankful for that. And And it's looking good because more and more people now are, it's open to more and more age groups, and hopefully we can fight this and come out of it stronger, better people.
Absolutely. That's good to know. I got the Pfizer. I know Moderna's out. My daughter in college, they've offered it to the college students, so she signed up for what they have there. That AstraZeneca and the Johnson and Johnson are the other two, but it just seems like the Johnson and Johnson and Moderna are the biggest two. Um, and so our church, our pastor's wife, she does the health initiative. So we'll be talking a lot more about those. If you know people, you can always send them out to my page or whatever. I do try to make sure I get that updated. But coming back to you, now that we've had this pandemic, um, you're a mom like many of us, you're a wife, you're a grandmother, family right now. When you're writing your book, what do they serve as inspiration? Do you factor in experiences? How do you use family and your experiences as you are writing your books?
When my kids were little, I remember one time my daughter got in the back seat with her friend. I had picked them up from school, and they were just giggling and talking. And she said, "Shh, don't talk while my mother is driving." I said, "Why? Why? Is it going to bother her?" She said, "No, she listens to what we say and then she puts it in a book." So she was maybe 12, at that age. So I use bits and pieces from life. I once saw a little old lady and little old man in the airport. I mean, they must have been like 80 years old, and they were tottering through the airport. One had a little crutch on this side, and another had a little cane on this side, and they were lost, and I helped them find their gate, and they might still be there, I don't know. But those are the kinds of things that end up in a story one day. So one day when you see a story about a little old man and a little old lady that were lost in the airport, and some 12-year-old will say, "Is that you?" Because 12-year-olds think anybody over 14 is old. And but it will be from those two little people I saw in the airport, or some lady that bumped me and was nasty to me in the grocery store, or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Life experiences is what you put into writing. I take life and I make fiction. I used to tell students when I was speaking to fourth and fifth graders, says, "I get to lie for a living. It's a cool job. I make stuff up. I write fiction. I'm the only person, people who write fiction are the only people who can lie and get away with it and get paid for it. It's a cool job. Make stuff up. Be a writer. If you want to be creative, then that's what you should do." So, I write fiction. I doubt if I will ever write any nonfiction because that's for somebody else to write. That's a different genre. Reality, newspaper articles. That's a different genre. That's not my genre. My genre is fiction. I don't write fantasy. I can't write about, flying people who go to the moon and come back as butterflies. That's not my genre. I just write about real people in the real world who have real problems. I put them out there, and if you can identify them, great. If you can't identify with them, that's okay too.
I love that because it just sounds like, the nugget is definitely find, your area and write about that, write about that area. So, very good wisdom. Got a word for you. When you hear this word, and I do this on these, I just want what your nugget of wisdom is. When you think of journey, the word journey, what comes to mind?
I think of a path, and it has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end. Um, Part of it is easy, and part of it is stony or rocky. Now you can tell I've been to Sunday school because pictures are always talking about the rocky path and the path of righteousness and the path to the right and the path to the left. But that's what I think about. Life is a path. Life is a journey. Life is going from point A to point B. How we get there is kind of up to us. We get to have some control over our own destiny because we're given choices. And the choices we make will determine the path that we end up on. Oh, that was good.
Mm,
I
I like
enjoyed
that
that.
too. Yes. So that was good. What about the word dream? DREAM, dream.
I think we need to have dreams. Everybody has to have dreams. And that's not the stories that you think about at night while you're asleep. It's about hopes and aspirations and desires, things that you long for, things that you wish for. So those are different, and everybody has dreams, and we need to value the dreams of other people because my dreams are not the same as yours, but your dreams are just as valid as mine. So we need to validate and honor other people's dreams as well as our own.
So, what about imagine? The word imagine. What comes to mind when you think of imagine?
I think of imagination, which is thoughts and dreams and that path all over again. So I think in order to be a writer, you have to have imagination because you have to create stuff from nothing, something from nothing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, shifting away from the words and your thoughts on them, talk to the mom right now that has to work, bring home the bacon, contend with the issues of life, raise the kids, keep going, and be mentally sane all at one time. The reason why I ask you this is because I know that you've been there, done that, got the t shirt for it, and you've raised up other generations to do the same. What's that encouragement that you give to that mother, woman in that circumstance that's watching right now?
Actually, we have it easy. I think back to my grandmother and her mother, because I remember vaguely my grandmother's mother. I was just a little girl, but I remember her, and they had hard lives. You go back a whole couple generations, you go back to slavery, and you think about what women suffered as they took their children away, as they were beaten and raped and
Mm.
mistreated. And you go back even further than that, and you think about the women of Africa and how those women, how proud they were, and how happy they were, and how dignified and beautiful they were, and how that was taken from them. So I feel a great deal of pride when I think about the women that I came from because I can trace them back a good little ways. And I have read enough history to go back even beyond that. So I salute the women who came before me.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, really a good perspective because, you know, we do have it easy. There's so much more that could be and that isn't. And, a lot has been done for us. What about, for um, those individuals that, and I don't know if you've had any death as a result of COVID or Miss Draper, we've had people that are maybe one class away from me. You've taught them that have passed away during this time. I don't know if you have heard any of them, but it's like, wow. Like, are you serious? I mean, what's the inspiration to people to live based on what you've been doing? Because it just seems like you're constantly reinventing yourself. What do you say to someone who has either experienced death that's happened to them to keep them going to live their fullest? What do you tell them? What's your advice?
And that's a hard question. That's not really fair because we've all been surrounded by death. And, everybody knows somebody who was touched by COVID. So that's a thing that we all have to come together and discuss and figure out and share with each other. We need to talk to each other. We spent so much time in isolation. We need to talk to each other. We need to talk about what this means and what it means that we lost uncles and aunts and parents and children and grandmas and grandpas. So we need to have conversations. We need to talk about it. But all of us have been touched by it. And there's no um, quick answer.
So I'm in total agreement. No, no quick answer. We have to figure it out as we um, go along. I'm going to shift and look at our city of Cincinnati. You being, I call a trailblazer, a leader, a pillar. You've done amazing things for our city. What, from your perspective, is one thing that maybe if someone's looking for, hey, I'd love to make an impact on my city or do something, what has not been done that maybe could add potential value to the next generations, just as through your writing and teaching and educating has done? What has not been done that could add value?
I can't answer that because everybody has their own path. But I do know that if you're looking for something to do, you work with children because children are the next generation. Children are the ones that have to be guided. Children have been really messed up by the pandemic and the shutting down of schools, and there's no telling what happened to them when they were stuck in their houses for months. And they've been damaged, they've been hurt, they've been confused, they've been lost. So focus on the children.
I love it. I love it because the children are our future. And where I'm at now, because there have been so many people like yourself that have poured into me, even this platform, Miss Draper, no one said, hey, Elyse, will you do this? It was just something that I heard God speak to my spirit and say, you need to, Elyse, showcase in a professional manner, achieving individuals that have contributed in a major way on a platform so that they can share how they made it, what they've done, what their plans are, as a source of inspiration to those that may tune in. And we have had such great individuals that have come on to where I'm already planning next month. And everybody does have a different story. And that's one of the things that I'm striving here. Um, Looking at my why do I do things, but it's more than self. It's about the children, literally. One of the things I learned from you, Miss Draper, is learn something, master it, and then teach it to someone else. Learn it,
Exactly.
master it, and then teach it to someone else.
That's excellent. I got to say one thing here. Um, I'm going to lose power in maybe 3 or 4 minutes. So
I
I'm,
gotcha. I
I'm getting
gotcha.
all kinds of signals that I don't want to shut off. Um,
So that
so
we don't delay, let me just go ahead and fast forward. Do you have any additional closing remarks maybe that you want to share during this stream? Because I definitely want to tap into. I want you to get your book done, and we appreciate you coming on tonight because you have a lot to get done. Any closing remarks at this time?
well, I'm very proud of you, Elise, of what you've done, what you've accomplished, the impact that you're making, because it's your generation and the generation that is to come after you, your daughter's generation, and the generation that's to come after her, that is going to that's going to change the world. So, and the fact that you're featuring women and um, you're lifting up women. The YWCA have always used that phrase. We lift as we climb. So let's do that. Let's take care of each other. Let's support each other. Let's do something for somebody else. If you see somebody at the grocery store that looks like they're struggling, pay their grocery bill.
Mm-hmm.
If find someone that you can help, even if it's just small. Shovel some snow, or just be nice to somebody, smile at somebody that you've never smiled at before. Um, we have to take care of each other. It's a community.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's hard to be a community because we're so spread out and because we've been so separated by uh, the pandemic. So let's find things to bring ourselves together again in small groups and gradually in larger groups. But it's okay to meet in small groups. Have a group of women over to your house and have coffee or tea and cook some calorie laden goodies and just talk and share. Do that in your communities. Let's get to know each other. Let's get to re-know each other because it's okay to come back outside now.
Yes. Miss Draper, thank you for allowing the viewers to get to know you during this time. For those of you that do have questions, I'll definitely put her email address in. You've got her website. Look for her new book to come out that she's wrapping up. She's got 35 others, resources for teachers, a host of information, speaking engagements. Let's definitely support our own. And as I bring this to a close, I always like to share my why. And I do what I do because, like myself, I want to help people take off any limitations, move beyond the mediocre stuff, mediocrity, so that you too may live a quality life. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Enjoy this broadcast, share it, refer it. Miss Draper, thank you. And we look forward to all of the everything that's to come. I'm putting out in the atmosphere a movie behind one of either your series or a book deal. We want to see something quality, even on the next level, come forth. So, everyone, thanks for tuning in. And until the next time, see you later. Have a good evening.
Thanks for having me.